So, Sheridan, tell me a little bit about your the James Barrett and where you're at right now in the Cooking Academy Awards.
The whole James Beard thing came as a surprise, and even this year getting it again,
Right.
it was an even bigger surprise. And for me, I don't really focus on that stuff. I think my day is more filled with trying to keep the business afloat and making sure everybody gets paid. But I'm definitely appreciative of all the support and all the love.
Well, you got a lot of people pulling for you. I know that.
Yeah, thanks.
Now, tell me a little bit about, your take on food right now, because what I mean by that is that the food you're serving at Flock and Fowl is very authentic and comes from your heart, and I would describe it as honest. There's no bells and whistles. Everything that's there serves a purpose. It complements the other thing. How do you feel about food when you turn on your Instagram and look at the pictures of all of the plates of food?
It's a lot of what we see on social media. It's style over substance. When we first created Flock and Fowl, I wanted it to be probably the most honest and at the same time untouched food. I wanted to recreate this experience that I had in Taipei, and when I first fell in love with chicken rice. So I was at this restaurant called Boon Keng Chicken, and it was right across from my grandma's house. I went into this restaurant, ordered their dish chicken rice, and literally, like, when you look down, it was a plate of rice with chicken on top and sauce. And when I took that first bite, I looked over to my wife and said, oh shit, yeah. And I couldn't believe what I was eating. And for something so simple, but when you bite into it, there's so much going on. It's so complex. And I knew to achieve something like that, it took so much care. And it's kind of like what they say about Italian food, right? There's so few ingredients, but when it's made right and it's done perfectly, it's magic. And with one simple mistake, the whole thing is ruined. And
Very
to me,
technique based.
Yes.
Technique.
And to me, when I took that first bite, I said this was it. Like, I had to bring this to Las Vegas.
Now, when did you first open?
We opened the one on Sahara 2015.
Okay.
And the one in downtown, we have been open for about a year and a half.
Okay. Now, tell me a bit about Fat Choy's here at the Eureka Casino.
So with Fat Troy, it happened kind of serendipitously, and right before we opened Fat Troy, we got a house about 2 blocks away, and it's a 5-minute walk to the restaurant. We met the owner of the casino, and he said, you know what, I have a kitchen if you want to take a look. And at the time, I was on my food truck. The food truck here in Vegas, it was a struggle because during the summer, it was hard to get customers. During the winter, it was too cold. Things were always breaking down. And so when I met him, it was at that moment where I was about to break with the food truck. And I wasn't making anything. Everything that I made, I was putting back into the truck.
Would you say this is the toughest part of your career up to that point?
Yes, absolutely. When I met the owner of the casino, he brought me in here, and he said, I want you to keep the hamburger, a Philly cheesesteak, and chicken wings on the menu. Anything you do beyond that, it's just do what you want to do.
What a great deal. What advice do you have for a young person starting their career cooking?
The advice I would have for people starting out would be, to find a direction that they want to go. Figure out like where they want to see themselves in 5 years, 10 years. Find the people to work with where they can learn the most from, and to go in that direction. And put in a good at least 5 years, just line cooking, maybe 2-3 years as a sous chef, and before working their way up to leading the kitchen.
I see oftentimes, whether it be through the television shows or, God forbid, social media, young people being put into chef positions maybe prematurely. And what I mean by that is that, I think about my own career, and at 23, 24 years old, I might have had a good dinner special. I might have had a handful of dishes that I pulled off really well then and presented really well.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the emotional maturity to be able to lead a team, to be able to lead a business. And of course, you couldn't have told me that at that time.
Right.
But now in hindsight that I'm older, and I can see a lot of young chefs falling into that trap, and it's always been there. There's always been opportunity for your career to get hijacked early on, and you get into this revolving door of restaurant executive chef positions where really you're not cut out to be a leader in the first place. How do you avoid that?
It's very hard, because as young cooks, I've been there, you've been there. You always want to be able to move ahead, and you think, you have a great week, great month, working meat station, and you think you could run the line and run the kitchen. It's so difficult. Cooking is still a craft. It's been a craft for thousands of years. Today, it's still a craft, and you can't perfect anything. You can't even teach somebody how to do something unless you've done it yourself 1,000 times.
Correct.
And once you've done it, for so many times, then you're able to put that knowledge onto somebody else. And I would say line cooking was probably like the most fun I've ever had. And once you get more and more responsibility, sometimes it's not all that. I would say the years that you have line cooking, definitely enjoy it, and you learn so much. You're a sponge, and when you get to an executive chef position, sometimes it's much harder to learn, and you find yourself every day you have to be the teacher. So I would say the time that you're learning, enjoy those times.
It's funny, I realized, when I finally, and I worked my way up through the hotels in a very traditional way that you'd suggested, and when I finally achieved executive chef, it was really one of those situations of don't wish too hard for what you want, because you might just get it. And, I had been restaurant chef for 10 years, prior to that, chef de cuisine, where you can really jump in and make a difference yourself. And it's very much, hey, look what I can do. Look at how talented I am. And as soon as you become executive chef, whether it's for your own business or somebody else's, it really becomes more of building your team up, and not so much what I can do, but look what he can do.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you achieve that executive position too early, that you don't have that understanding, that it's not about you. Life isn't really about you. It's about everybody else.
Absolutely, yeah.
Chef, you said, you mentioned goals earlier, and I'm curious, at this point in your career, what are some of your goals moving forward? What would you like to achieve out of the rest of your time on this plane?
What I would like to achieve, for when I first started going into business, Las Vegas as a dining scene was quite different. So I wanted to add a little bit more culture to the dining scene. I wanted to bring something different to what's going on off the strip. I'd say seeing what the landscape is now, it's so much better than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and it's exciting to be a part of this thing where people come in from all over the world, come in and they have so many choices. And we have restaurants here today that rival any of the best restaurants in other top cities. So for me I like to see that continue. Las Vegas is kind of an underdog when it comes to a food town. I think we're one of the best, and I like to keep spreading that message, saying
Awesome.
we're here. You just have to find us, and yeah, you're gonna get good food.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff.